everybody, Davide aka Panzer speaking here. The topic of today is do-it-yourself rigs, aluminum profile rigs. This rig that you see here was designed and built by me, not rocket science, something that everybody can do, and we will discuss about this. And this is a video I wanted to do around 5 months ago, because actually 5 months ago I built this rig and replaced my old one that if you saw my previous video was Omega GT Omega Apex. And yeah, I wanted to make this video, I couldn't find the time, and in the meantime I also upgraded many things. This seat was mounted at the beginning of June, this base and wheel, and there's another wheel behind me where both at the end of June, and the final piece of the rig, the handbrake, was added recently, a few weeks ago. I consider this rig finished. I know that, I mean, you never finish your rig, that's what they say in the sim racing communities. But for now, I really think that this project came to an end, because I have to have good at driving, not more building, because I have everything I need to perform, actually more. And yeah, that's the point. I don't like the idea of changing things continuously. Perhaps in a while I will change something, but not for now. Now I want to enjoy. But then, going back in topic. So, this sim rig was built by me, and of course there are many sim rigs that you can buy on the market that you can already buy. So the point for many people is what is better to buy or to build, what is cheaper, and what are the pros, what are the cons. And we will go into the details of what are the pros, what are the cons, and why I decided to build my own sim rig. And yeah, I hope this will be helpful to you to decide. At the end of the day, I always suggest to people to get an aluminum profile rig. This is something that it's not me, everybody says that. The reason is that they are stiff and strong. It's very easy to mount any kind of gadget, accessorize on these things, and it's going to live. I mean, if you're planning to do sim racing for the next 20 years, a thing like this can last 20 years, while the rest of the hardware you will probably replace. And that's a good point where to invest money. And I think also in terms of performance, a good sim rig is probably the most important piece of hardware. Now, I'm nobody to talk about performance. I'm a slow driver, you know, I know. And yeah, we usually in sim racing communities, they say that pedals and rig are the most important thing. In my opinion, rig really comes first, because a good rig allows you to sit in a comfortable position where you have control, doesn't flex, and you can be well rested, driving consistently, and so on. So I think it's the most important piece of the mosaic. And if you are really committing to sim racing, spending some money getting a good sim rig is totally worth it. Okay. Now the problem is that at the very beginning, not everybody is sure. Most people probably are not sure how much they will commit to sim racing, how long they will do sim racing. So it's always hard to start with something as expensive as this sim rig, because anyway, even the cheapest models of a full aluminum rig are quite expensive, not crazy expensive, but for sure expensive, especially if we think that a wheel stand, a simple wheel stand that can be folded, can cost something like 120, 130. If you get some Chinese stuff on AliExpress, Temu and so on, can be even less than that. Of course, they're not better than this, they're actually quite worse, but they can be a starting point, right? So I can understand that people go step by step. I went step by step myself, I mean, and I'm not sure if I would have started with the budget of this rig. I'm not sure, I would probably have wasted money. On one end, I wasted money starting from a cheaper hardware, cheaper base, cheaper wheel, cheaper stand. And at the same time, I could try sim racing, learn, understand what I really wanted, and then move to that. And I'm not sure I would be able to do the same from zero. So I understand if you start from something cheaper. I did it, and it's common. But now let's go more into the topic, and let's go by one, addressing all the things about building an aluminum profile rig like this one. So first point, how much does it cost? The price. Okay, this rig that you see It's based on 4080 profiles. So I mean, I'm explaining the obvious, but this means that, for example, this segment is 80 millimeters long and 40 millimeters wide. Okay, and that's perfectly fine to have a super stiff sim rig that can resist any kind of abuse you do to them. I know that more expensive sim rigs have wider profiles and so on, because you can attach more stuff, they look more premium and so on. But really, even with motion, this is perfectly fine. Also, if you wanna know, if you go to sim racing trade show like the Sim Racing Expo in Dortmund, that there will be the next week, and they will be there. Many motion rigs are actually mounted on 4080 profiles, so that's perfectly fine for you. And this rig costed around 450 euros, including tax, including shipment, so everything together. This excludes, I don't know if you can see them, these two profiles for the shifter and handbrake, because I already had them. This would add another 30 euros. Actually, as I already had some profiles at home that I used for this, this is too short. If I had to buy it, I would have bought this segment longer, because you see it's a bit cramped. And yeah, so all the things together would be around 30 euros more, so around 480 euros. How are these expensive distributed? So I paid 250 euros for the profiles. I sourced them from a local company, I mean a German company, I live in Germany. And yeah, I wanted them to be black. That's why I didn't buy them from Motedis. That is probably the best, I mean, to me, it's the best website to source profiles and accessorize for profiles in Europe, hands down. And so I had to go to H.AO for another reseller, because I wanted them black, and sadly Motedis only sells silver ones. They also sell ready-made rigs at a very competitive price. I don't like their design a lot, because I like a more minimalist style, as you can see here, but if you don't mind, also a good solution. And so 250 for the profiles and 200 euro for the hardware. Hardware is caps like this one, corner brackets, steel and the screws, and everything else to keep this thing in place. Now, I went quite overboard with hardware. I put a lot of screws, a lot of connectors. This rig is has way more connecting elements than what you would buy from a producer like Trek or SimLab and so on. Whether it's worth it, up to you. I mean, for me, it's worth it because I like what I built, but actually probably in practical terms, the advantages in terms of stiffness are very minimal or non-existent in some cases. Still, I used way more hardware. You can save some money, probably 20 euros or so, using a bit less hardware. Not sure if it's worth it at the end, but yeah, that's important to mention. And how do we compare this price with the products that are available on the market? So I think that SimLab GT1 Evo, that is one of the best rigs that you can buy in Europe, should be around 380 euros from the SimLab website. I'm not completely sure, you can check on your own. And you will have to pay shipment on top of that. You might want accessorize and so on, but it's comparable. And so it's kind of in the same range. And it's probably why it doesn't cost much less. The thing is that a manufacturer like SimLab or Trek and so on, Track Racer, they can request from the suppliers very large amount of segments of profiles cut in the proper way, package them and so on. While you're asking a company where there will be a person that goes, take these bars and cut them at the exact measure you want, remove some extra residuals of the cut and so on, package it and send it to you. So on one end, you save money. On the other end is a quite manual manufacturing process that costs more. So at the end of the day, you can build a quite fancy rig, saving money compared to the products on the market. You can get bang for bucks, you will get something better. But definitely you cannot go too cheap without making a design that would be probably weaker. So as long as we're talking about 4080 profiles and a structure that in terms of size is similar to a product on the market, you're not going to save a lot, okay? You're going to save in terms of you will get something better at the same price, but you cannot go down too much in price, and that's something to say. And when I wrote this when I shared this kind of information on Reddit with people asking if it was worth it to build their own sim rig, and that was kind of a deal breaker for them, because they were expecting to save much more. You're not going to save a lot, okay? And this is the price point, the point over price. So next point, designing it. So you want to build your own sim rig. You have to have an idea of what you want to build, right? Because you have to go on a website like Motedis, that I strongly suggest, or other websites, and request the profiles of the exact measure you need, plus buying all the connecting hardware. So there are software that allows you to design a sim rig, but actually I don't suggest you to work with softwares, because I mean it's not really needed. I mean a rig is a very simple item. Okay, it's basically a rectangle. This one is a rectangle. You can see you have two main beams that are, I mean, the longest elements. Then you have three transversal beams that connect the two sides, and that's the main structure. Then you need two pieces as seat rails, two pieces that will be the foundation to mount the seat rails, and then you have the uprights, and that's it. So it's not very complicated. A software will help you in not making mistakes, in counting correctly the connecting elements or anything, but you don't need it. I actually would suggest that it's more simple and cheaper to get just paper, pencil, draw it with a ruler, and make your own calculation. Count with a spreadsheet, can be Google Sheet, can be Excel, whatever you have, whatever you like, the number of connecting elements, and you're good to go. I actually designed this rig under the shower, basically. I was thinking about it for a long time, and yeah, I was already sure about the design and all the measures. Then I made just a very simple schema on a piece of paper, very ugly actually. I would not share it, and used a spreadsheet. Took like 5-10 minutes to exactly count all the connecting elements, or the screws, or the angular connectors, and so on. And then I made my order, and I have to say, there was no mistake, at least no big one. I didn't have to reorder parts and so on. Only thing that I discovered was that, for example, Motedis tells you already what is the best combination for the corner brackets. That is like two T-nuts for M8 screws, two M8 screws that are 60 millimeters long, and the corner bracket itself. No? So I bought all 60 millimeters M8 screws, and then that's something that was actually wrong, and I had to order from Amazon some M8 screws that were shorter, 14 or 12 millimeters, because some of the plates are actually thinner, and then you risk to ruin the profile. So that's something, I mean, I don't like to ruin the profiles. So that's the only thing, but it was very minor thing that I fixed very quickly. So designing is not too difficult. This is not rocket science. And I understand if you feel a bit, let's say, shy, if you're not used to build stuff, but you can really do it with just paper and pencil. And yeah, I don't suggest to do like me, just on top of your mind, but yeah, not too complicated. Now, third point. What is special on this sim rig? Why? What is special in this design that made me design actually my own sim rig? A couple of things. As you see, the structure, the fundamental structure is not very different from what you find on the market. The rig is 135 centimeters long, 135, and 62 centimeters wide. And the length is pretty much standard for sim rigs that you find on the market. The width is slightly larger. It's slightly wider, 4 centimeters more. There's a reason for that, and that's basically it. Some differences that you will probably notice are that the profiles that sustain the seat rails are at the same level of the main beams, while usually most sim rigs have these segments that are basically they are put over these two parts, so they are lifted 4 centimeters compared to what I have. Why I did that? Because I wanted the absolute the most compact and minimalist rig. I like the idea that the seat sits the lowest possible, and this also helped me in having an optimal height for the pedal deck. Okay, and because at the end of the day, and for this, for the position over the rig, I suggest, and I will put the link on the info box, to watch the video of Daniel Morat. Sorry, it's the best, absolutely the best. And also there are a lot of pictures that are shared in sim racing forums and communities that are wrong, especially the Skoda one that comes from Rally. You can also find the page where it's coming from, and as I mean, rally positions are not that different from the GT3 one, they're just a bit more upright, but the picture are very wrong proportion of the person drawing that. I'm sure you saw that picture. And also very wrong proportion of the seat, and the angles are wrong, like this angle is 45 degrees, that's wrong. So follow the Daniel Morat video, I really suggest it. I also followed his indications. The angles are slightly different because I'm not Daniel Morat, but the big picture wise is the best video. And yeah, what I wanted to achieve is that the heels sit at the same height as my butt, basically, and I achieved this. I achieved this in a very compact form factor, basically putting the segment 4 centimeters below where compared to other products on the market, and basically lifting these profiles that keep up the pedal plate. Now, I didn't want to use a pedal deck, and I didn't want to use a wheel deck for a couple of reasons. One is stiffness, because profiles tend to be stiffer than many pedal plates in steel that might be a bit, I mean, there are very excellent pedal plates that you can find, but usually they're expensive. Profiles are relatively cheap and are very stiff. And also I like everything to sit flat and then adjust with brackets or things like that. For example, my base, I don't use a front mount. I don't like front mounts. Front mounts will give me more room for the leg. But the advantage of using profiles in a very geometric way is that if I want to lift this base 5 centimeters, I lift the base 5 centimeters and nothing else move. If I want to bring all this stuff in front of me, I can use the brackets because they still have a few centimeters of adjustment back and forth. Or I can also loosen the screws and move all the block back and forth and adjust the distance without influencing the angle of the base or the height. Everything can be adjusted one piece at a time except the angle, because of course if you change the angle, and you can change it from the brackets, what is happening is also that the height and the distance of the wheel compared to me is going to be influenced a bit. But yeah, that gives me total control. For the pedals, the Aztec Invicta pedals can sit flat, it's fine. The pedal plate has a bit of slope naturally, and the pedals can be adjusted to be at the right angle, and I find this super comfortable, very happy with it. So also, as I have a very tiny corner there where we put my stuff, I wanted the uprights to sit internally, not externally. Okay, this makes the rig looks more compact, more tiny, and yeah, it works. Of course, it's a compromise. You can see I have very little space in my leg. This rig is big for me, that I'm not a big guy, and yeah, I can put my leg here. It's not super comfortable to get in and out, but I used to say as a joke, that's immersion. Race cars are not comfortable. It's always hard to get in and out, and it works, yes. And I made also some design choices thinking about the possibility that I wouldn't like the position. So these elements here are threaded, and I can basically move the pedal deck 2 levels below if I want. So basically this is the highest position, but I can put the profiles that work as a pedal deck 4 centimeters below or even 8 centimeters below. It wouldn't work with these specific pedals, but technically it's possible. Also, these segments that are supporting the seat rails are tapped, so you can screw the extremities. So if I want, I can still mount them 4 centimeters up. So I decided it to be able to adjust it if I wouldn't have liked this position, but this position was what I had in mind, okay? And the final point, I wanted this rig to be insanely stiff and motion ready. This is very important. How I achieved that? The connecting elements of this sim rig are way more than what you buy on the market, around 2 pair more. If you see the main frame, it's a bit misleading, but yeah. So the main rectangle that is holding all the rig, there are the usual 2 corner brackets per each corner, but also there are 2 steel connecting plates that work like in a sandwich shape, let's say, that increase the torsional stiffness. All these other segments are fixed on both the sides. You see this element in many rigs, you would only have 2 corner brackets at the inside, but these are corner brackets on both the sides. The uprights don't have only 4 corner brackets at the sides, but they also have 2 externally. And everything followed this philosophy. Each one of the elements of the pedal deck have 8 corner brackets each, and also this element that is sustaining the base has 8 corner brackets above and below and above. So everything is, at the end I used, I think, more than 150 screws. I will write the exact number and all the list of components in the info box. I used a bit more, 70 corner brackets or perhaps a bit more, plus 8 connecting plates, and yeah, it's on. So this makes the rig extremely stiff and ready for motion. Also, the main structure is a full rectangle. Many products on the market don't have a transversal connecting element at the end. They use the pedal deck to provide that kind of stiffness because it makes sense. It's not a particularly stressed side. But if you have a motion platform, it might be worth to also have a connecting element there for the added stiffness. So this rig is indeed overkill, and but I could do it at the same price of an entry-level aluminum profile rig. That is not really entry-level because it's a high-end project, but that's what it is. So we also looked into the design and the specific design of this rig. At the end, was it worth it? This depends on you. I like to build stuff, and I wouldn't be able to have a rig exactly like this one that would be so minimalist, super stiff, and very compact at this price. Actually, I don't think there's a product on the market exactly satisfying these specific requirements. So for me, the way was building or nothing, or having something that wouldn't have satisfied me entirely. But you might be perfectly happy with something like the SimLab GT1 Evo or even higher class products. They're great and they work. They do everything you would need as a sim racer. And for most people, buying would be the way to go. But if you want customization, if you like to build stuff, if you have some special needs, I mean, if you are a very tall guy, if you are very bulky, if you have mobility issues or disabilities, perhaps considering to build your own rig that is tailored for you might be worth it. And yeah, that's basically the point. You won't save a lot of money. As I said, you can get better, but the final price of all the rig wouldn't be much cheaper of what you can buy, at least the best bang for bucks rig that you find on the market. But you can be better and you can have something tailored for you. Also, a compromise that you do building your own sim rig is on the adjustability side. So this rig uses profile elements as pedal deck and wheel deck, and this is good and bad. I mean, I have a super stiff wheel deck and super stiff pedal deck. I actually tested the pedals pushing more than 140 kilos, like F1 style overboard, and the rig doesn't move, absolutely. You don't feel anything. The seat would move because this is made to flex a bit. It's intended, but really the rig doesn't give a dime about it. But this comes with adjustability issues. I mean, the rigs that and the pedal deck and the wheel deck that you buy from manufacturers of sim rigs are very easy to adjust. You just move a couple of bolts and you can adjust everything angle. Sometimes they might not stiff enough to handle the full power braking, but for most users I adjust better. You adjust things very quickly. This would require more time, and as I said, you have less space for your legs. So I think about the building your own sim rig, it's enough, and I hope you enjoyed this part, and I will provide all the information about what I ordered to build this sim rig. And if you are curious about building your own sim rig, I suggest you to do so. It's a nice journey, take some time. And also, final point that I forgot to say before, when designing your sim rig, look the manuals of all the sim rig you find on the market, because every sim rig that is sold by a manufacturer has a manual. The manual includes the list of all parts, and you see also the process of building it, of assembling it, and this gives you a lot of information to design your own one. But as I said, it's not complicated. Now, some quick notes about the rest of the upgrades that I made, just because I think it's interesting. On the topic of the sim rig, the most important one is the seat. So at the beginning, in the past, I had Omega GT seat. It was H.AO seat, if I remember correctly. And after I got this one, I sold it together with all the previous rig as a single package. And now that I have this seat, I can say I'm much more comfortable. I feel very much better. I never suffered of pain while sim racing, even if I use a relatively strong brake pedal. I use like 80 kilos brake pedal more or less. But I had some annoyance at my right knee, the one on the throttle, more some very subtle inflammation. And when I got this seat, and the seat forces you a bit to stay in the correct position, and this completely disappeared. I feel much better. Of course, you will find a lot of people discouraging or like complaining about bucket seats. The thing is, bucket seats can be the best seats because they are made for racing and for racing position. And if you want to have a position like the one I'm having here, that is derived from GT3s, you want to have this, because these allow you to stay comfortable in a GT3 position, while a recliner seat would always be a compromise because it's not made for that. It's made for being extremely accessible and comfortable in the position of a normal street car. There might be some cars that have a quite more extreme position for a street car. If you can find one of those seats, would be great. But usually bucket seat is what you want. The problem is bucket seats tend to be very narrow, very protective, tight, and you need one that suits your body shape. And this is the hard part. Motorsport shops are not that common. I live in Berlin, I didn't find one. Perhaps there's one, but I'm not aware of. I had to order. I ordered it from Amazon. I'm a Prime customer. I could send it this back in case I didn't like it. And yeah, you have to try your luck, collect some information, and then at the end try it. And actually, I'm happy with this one. This is a Sparco Grid Q QRT seat. I didn't add any cushioning or anything. Out of the box, it's the best seat I ever had. But I'm just lucky. I mean, it just fits me. It might be total hell for you, and the hard part is finding the right seat for you. Yeah. Oh, another note that you might be, it's interesting for you. So these seats, while they are expensive, this seat cost 480 euro. At least I paid for that. And they're not as perfect as you would expect. For example, here, the distance between these two bolts should be 29 centimeters on both the sides, and on this side is 29 centimeters, on the other side is 28.5. I actually sent one seat back to Amazon, say, look, the distance between the bolts on one side is wrong. They sent me another seat and it was the same. Then I contacted Spark and they said yes, 0.5 centimeters is according to tolerance, and the brackets can still mount this, allow for mounting the seat anyway. And this was quite a surprising discovery, but I kept the seat and I mounted it. I was able to mount it properly aligned, even if the sliders are slightly off between the two sides, because it's slightly different. But still it works. But be ready for something like that. You would expect that a seat that is FIA certified and as expensive as this one would be perfect to the millimeter, but these are race car kind of stuff that they're good to protect yourself, but they're not necessarily the most premium experience in terms of quality or assembly. We sim racers are kind of spoiled about that. There's an interesting video of Daniel Suzuki where he recently tested the F1 wheel from SimLab, that he says this is a real racing wheel. It's not refined like our stuff that we use in sim racing. This is raw, because it has to work, it has to be solid, and this is a bit the case here. So be ready for that. You might be disappointed if you expected something that is perfect to the millimeter. But I strongly suggest anyway to take a bucket seat, and I strongly suggest to take it from a brand that makes bucket seats for racing cars, not the sim racing brands, because at the end the price is mostly the same. And actually, I would argue, don't go for the sim racing version, go for the FIA certified one. Why? Because you can sell it more easily. So the price was almost the same, especially this cost on Amazon almost the same of the price that other sites do for the sim racing version. And this is a FIA certified one. So if next year I say I'm done with sim racing, I want to sell it, there's a larger market, because this can be mounted 100% in a car. And this is an advantage. Of course, make your own calculations. Depends on how much you save. But I think in many cases you don't save enough to make it worth it in terms of reselling possibilities, okay? And that's it. Then for the rest of the upgrades, Conspit Ares Platinum base, 20 Newton meters, I can only recommend this thing. It's a very nice base, and I don't want to make some bold claim it's the best on the market. People argue a lot of what is the perfect force feedback. There's no perfect force feedback, and that's for sure. What I can say about this, doesn't cost a lot. The price is appropriate. I mean, it costs a lot. This is premium stuff. I don't want to be, I don't want to sound offensive to people that are saving money to buy their dream stuff. This is an expensive base, but for what it packs compared to competition is relatively affordable. It has USB pass-through. Now they give two different styles of QR. You have this Formula style QR, but they also make the energy one that is probably most of the people who like that. And yeah, everything works. The software is a bit Spartan, needs more refining, but it's not buggy. Never had disconnection or problems coming from this, and it just works. Force feedback is very good on the smooth side. You cannot make it rough, that I would like to be able to also make it rough if I wanted. I basically play with no filters, and it's still very smooth, but it's really excellent for feedback. Everything is perfect. It has enough strength to do everything. You can also see my other video where I go with one hand 20 Newton meters all rouge and I crash. Strength is on point. It works. Their wheels, bang for bucks, are excellent. Very happy of this one. I'm very happy of this other one that I have here. And yeah, I can only recommend. Of course, yeah, there are so many alternatives nowadays. If you go for C-Magic Alpha Evo Pro, also great. If you go for VRS, some incredible options. The VRS 15 Newton meter base is great, and bang for bucks pack extremely high value. And then also the 20 Newton meters one, you can buy it and upgrade it later. Incredible. VNM also incredible. There are so many options. This one just works. I think that compared to the other one, it has a less industrial design. It's more a product for sim racers. It's not just a servo motor, and some people will like it, others not. It has a button on the front, so you don't need a button for emergency, because you can actually reach it without the wheel coming in your way. It's a full aluminum front, aluminum body. The only plastic thing is this one. I would be happy if it would be aluminum, but that's fair. It's the back with the ports. Yeah, I can only recommend. Very happy. And then at the end, the SimLab handbrake. I think Bag4Bucks is one of the best products for handbrakes, because let's be honest, if you're not really mainly doing rally, and I do only rally every now and then, the handbrake will be used not too much. And you don't want to spend a lot of money, but I understand you don't want perhaps to have something plasticky or not very robust. This is very robust, does the job, it's not too expensive, it's compact, easy to mount. I can also recommend. But of course there are many alternatives also. So, it was a long video. I think I said everything I wanted to say. If you have questions, just write it in the comment. I will be very happy to answer. And I wish you a great day and great sim racing. To the next video.